Hi, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Kit.
Welcome to Starry Time, where stars plus lines.
Equal stories.
Today we'll be continuing our exploration of the constellation Cassiopeia.
Cassiopeia was a queen in Greek mythology, as we'll discuss in great detail today, but other cultures associated this constellation and this part of the night sky with other images and stories.
Absolutely, and there seem to be a lot of different associations. For example, in Chinese astronomy, the stars of Cassiopeia are spread across three different constellations, which include the Purple Forbidden Enclosure, the Black Tortoise of the North, and the White Tiger of the West.
And in ancient Babylonian astronomy, Cassiopeia was part of the constellation the Stag, along with the constellation Andromeda.
Oh, we're not getting to Andromeda yet.
So, the Stag constellation, according to Gavin White's Babylonian star lore book, which I reference quite often, is something of a mystery with not a lot of surviving information. So, White suggests that it might be related to an Arabian tradition or story.
Yeah, and this idea of the W asterism as an antlered creature is also found in other traditions from northwestern Europe and Siberia that have seen this constellation as an elk or a reindeer.
And in Norse mythology, it's been suggested that this constellation was Ratatesker, which was a trickster squirrel with horns who liked to mess with the other deities. Which I had not heard of the trickster squirrel before, but I was very intrigued. And really, there were a lot of other mythologies and histories of this constellation. There's a really great summary on Jodie Vogler's website, and so I'll post that in our show notes on our website, storytimepodcast.com, and on our socials for folks who want to deep dive into the many other stories about this constellation.
Well, I don't want to gloss over how well you just pronounced Ratataskor, the trickster squirrel. Want to give you credit for that.
Thank,
Excellent work.
thank
In
you. I
season
practiced.
2, you've shown a lot of growth already.
Thank
Cassiopeia
you.
was the queen of Ethiopia, which in the ancient world was in the Upper Nile region of ancient Sudan. And I just want to note that this Ethiopia is spelled like the modern Ethiopia, but with an A at the beginning. And I'm not sure if that should change its pronunciation or not.
We do hear about Ethiopia in other Greco Roman stories, including the Iliad and the Odyssey. In the Iliad, we're told that Zeus and company are visiting the land of the Ethiopians. And in the Odyssey, Poseidon is said to be away in Ethiopia, perhaps during the coming story. And thus, Poseidon is too distracted to care about Odysseus in that particular moment.
Poseidon turns out not the hardest guy to distract. But anyways, Queen Cassiopeia, let's talk about her for a while.
Mm.
She's living her life here in Ethiopia. She's married to King Cepheus, who's going to be the subject of next month's constellation of the month. And they have a
Mhm.
daughter, Andromeda, who we'll get to eventually.
And all of these stories are interconnected. So these three constellations, the story is all interconnected. And so we're kind of going to be breaking up the stories and focusing on different parts as we move through this set of constellations.
Alright, so Queen Cassiopeia. She may have been a nymph. She may have been just a regular mortal woman. Anyways, in the myth, she is seen brushing her hair, and she's just kind of really digging the way she looks. And as she's brushing her hair and feeling herself, she claims, we're not sure to who, but she claims that she is even more beautiful than the Nereids.
The Nereids are sea nymphs, and Nereid is also a moon of Neptune. But the Nereids are said to be the daughters of Nereus, who's sort of a primordial ocean god, is the father, and their mother is the ocean nymph Doris.
The ocean nymph Doris?
So Doris and Nereus had 50 daughters, 50 daughters. All of them are Nereids.
Busy, 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 busy. So Doris,
Yes.
she's prolific.
Yeah, they're very busy. Probably the most famous of these Nereids is Thetis, the mother of Achilles, but Poseidon's wife is also a Nereid, and we're going to do a Nereids asterism talking about the mythology and astronomy. So I don't want to say much more about them.
Well, I look forward to that, and listeners, be on the lookout for our Nereid asterism coming soon. So basically, Cassiopeia says that she is in fact more beautiful than all 50 of these women. As a result of this boastful hubris that she's displayed, the Nereids become enraged and ask Poseidon to punish her. And in some accounts, they say he floods the entire country afterwards. And other accounts say that he sends a sea monster to destroy Ethiopia. Either way, destruction comes for Cassiopeia and her entire family.
Mm-hmm. And there are more granular details about what happens, and we'll discuss those again in the next couple of episodes. We'll talk about what happens to Cepheus and Andromeda, but we'll leave the story right there for now, I think.
The myth of Cassiopeia is often wrapped up in the stories of Perseus, who we'll also be discussing this season at a later date. But this means the myth itself of Cassiopeia is somewhat flat.
Yeah, and since it's serving more as a way to feature Perseus's so-called quote-unquote heroics, as opposed, it's not really functioning as a story about actual people.
Yeah, all the characters in this myth are more or less archetypes.
But I think the moral is probably like the most one of the one of the clearer ones, which
Mhm.
is basically just like don't be vain, be wary of hubris. Like it's basically just casting these behaviors and characteristics as bad. I don't. Is there anything else? I don't know.
Nope, I think it's a pretty simple one, Kit. Not a great one either. I mean, it's possible in the case of the flood version that it's also trying to be an explanation for why floods and natural disasters occur,
Mm.
and therefore it's just myth as response to the natural environment.
Yeah, so I think ultimately a pretty easy, straightforward one, but I think it's one that definitely needs a retconstellation.
Do you want to start with yours first?
Yeah, mine's pretty short to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
My first reaction and the one I just sort of like stayed with was like, what if we just made the king the one that's vain?
Mm.
Because vanity is so often coded as a negative trait for women. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that sort of reinforces this idea that like women shouldn't like themselves or how they look. And so I kind of think this myth would be better if it was about King Cepheus, and maybe he's like, I'm more handsome than Poseidon, and then
Mm.
Poseidon sends the sea monster. But
Mm-hmm.
then maybe the sea monster is like, you know what, Poseidon, I don't really want to kill this guy because like he's probably someone's type and we're all
Mm-hmm.
beautiful in our own way. And then Cetus, who's the sea monster who we haven't really
Mm-hmm.
talked about and has his own constellation, is just like, I'm gonna like go on vacation. Like I don't really want to be part of this. And so then Poseidon and Cepheus both sort of learn that and remember that beauty is subjective and being vain is kind of pointless because everybody is beautiful in their own way and everybody is somebody's type, and that's what I came up with. It's also not a bad thing to like yourself and like how you look and be proud of yourself. And I think like so much of the time like we have a persistent message that's like don't like yourself, don't like how you look, and like yeah, why let's not let's just like embrace how we look and let's not get into fights about it.
So yeah, my reconciliation does kind of tie in, of course, to yours a little bit. And I have two versions, and they're pretty different.
Okay.
But in the first one, the story that I want to tell is about a rivalry between these sea
Mm.
gods, Poseidon and Nereus. You know, Nereus
Mhm.
is supposed to be this sea god who's predated Poseidon or is primordial,
Mhm.
however you want to describe it. But anyways, in my retelling, they've known each other their whole life, and to them,
Mhm.
Cassiopeia is this imaginary ideal that they've been fighting over and
Mm.
had a rivalry with their whole life. So
Mm.
what gets placed on the throne here is more, a projection of their desire, and it's a symbol of how chained they are to their own lust, rather than Cassiopeia being a woman chained for her vanity. My
Mm.
other Rec constellation is a little bit more insidious. In this one,
Okay.
yeah, well, I like this one more, in fact. In this
Okay. Well, what a
reconciliation,
surprise.
yeah, in this reconciliation, Cassiopeia and Poseidon are working together. They want to
Mm.
destroy this kingdom because either
Mm.
they don't believe in Cepheus's ability to rule, or there's a certain
Uh-huh.
degree of corruption here, or,
Mhm.
for some reason or another, Cassiopeia and Poseidon decide, like in Emperor Palpatine, Game of Thrones shit, to have this unholy alliance in order to create
Mhm.
regime change. And this
Mm,
whole
mhm, mhm.
vanity claim that Cassiopeia makes, Poseidon's in on, Nereus is in on, and it's all kind of like this pretense to get the sea god on Cassiopeia's side. So in this
Mm,
version of the story, Cassiopeia is painted vain and willing to be seen as arrogant because, in some sense, it will save her city from some sort of decadence or corruption that Cepheus has been enabling or allowing. And in this sense,
mm.
her vanity or arrogance is more altruistic. It only appears vain on the surface when you don't have the details about why she's willing to be seen this way and why she went to
Mm.
destroy the city.
Wow. I mean, I do like the idea, right? Because so many of these characters are so flat. It's interesting to think about, well, what if like the destruction of this city is necessary in some way, as
Mm-hmm.
you said, because of
What if
King
Cassiopeia's in
Cepheus
on it?
being evil? Yeah, I like that idea. And I think it also like reminds us like of this way in which stories can get told that like especially ones like this where there's no depth. It's like you don't really understand why people are doing what they're doing. They might have a good reason. I think when you add that layer in, it just becomes like a more interesting story with more.
No, it's just characters with desires and impetus and
Mhm.
motivation. They want things. So yeah, I mean, just giving it any degree of complexity when you're dealing with stereotypes, archetypes, characters we don't know what they want or why they're doing what they're doing. Were my goals with both of these constellations.
We have a new segment on our Retconstellations called AI Oracle, where we ask AI, in this case, ChatGPT, um, to retcon the myth for us. So we're like, what's the myth? And this story, I just said I would like a contemporary version of this myth, please, AI Oracle. And whoo, the long version of this, because ChatGPT Oracle AI just really got rolling here
Yep.
on a tear. And it
Yep.
was long. It was probably like a page long. It was too long.
Too
And
long.
and so I said, okay, please give me just a one paragraph version of this story. So
Yeah.
I'm going to read it to you.
Well,
And
sometimes you go to the Oracle and they just won't shut up. You're like, can you just give me like
they
the
got things to
synopsis?
say.
Like,
They're
just
they're
let me
on,
know what's
the
going.
fumes.
Yeah, just give me the fumes. All right. So what's the AI Oracle have to
All
say?
right.
In one paragraph or two, or however few you cut it down
Whew. All right, we got into one paragraph. In the digital realm, Cassiopeia, a famous influencer,
to.
reveled in her beauty and superiority. Poseidon, the god of the online domain,
Oh, thanks, ChatGPT.
unleashed unleashed a viral sea monster
Hmm.
that wreaked havoc on her kingdom.
Hmm.
To restore balance, Cassiopeia sacrificed her fame and social media empire. Tech savvy hero Perseus
Brand
came
new
to her
sentence.
aid.
Tech savvy hero Perseus.
Right. Battling the digital monster and freeing Cassiopeia from her past mistakes. There's still more.
These are
With a
so good.
newfound understanding of her impact, Cassiopeia rebuilt her online
Oh,
presence
did she?
using now she's using her influence for positivity, social causes, and genuine connection. This contemporary retelling explores vanity, redemption, and the responsibility of digital influence in the modern age.
Well, AI Oracle, you didn't miss. I'll give you that much. You nailed it. 10 out of 10.
it's
No
it's
notes.
so bad. It's so bad. And it's funny because I feel like the last time we did this, it was good. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, wow, like, do we even need to write retcons anymore? This
Yeah.
one's great. And then this one came along. And I was like,
Yeah,
Yikes.
yikes is right. No, this is good. I don't think I'm ever gonna forget Poseidon, the god of the online domain, unleashed a viral
Right.
sea monster, or tech savvy hero Perseus. No, this is great.
Tech
So
savvy
I felt the
hero.
same way as you did after the first one we did with the AI Oracle. I was
Hmm.
like, should I just use this every time? Because this is better than anything that I came up with. But now we see the Oracle 2 is fallible, that if humans put just a little bit of thought and effort into the myths that we tell each other, we will be able to outthink the AI Oracle's best ways of making these myths contemporary. That brings us to the end of our episode this week. Join us next week for our pop culture segment of our exploration of this constellation, Cassiopeia.
This has been Kit.
And Jordan.
Sisters, lovers of stars and stories.
And we'll see you next time.
On Starry Time.